Okay, quick disclaimer before we get started. The Blockmates podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. The information and opinions expressed on the podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Blockmates or its affiliates. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Blockmates and its affiliates are not liable for any losses or damages incurred as a result of the reliance on the information or opinions expressed on this podcast.
We're back. Good local time. Daniel, welcome to the Blockmates podcast and YouTube channel. It's great to have you. Daniel's founder. He's apparently the only founder of Swell, but he doesn't really see himself as being above everybody else in Swell. Everyone's my business partner. Great perspective, Daniel. Welcome. It's awesome to have you, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah, really well. Thank you, mate. Great to be here. Huge fan of Blockmates.
Yeah, we're also a huge fan of what you guys have been doing. Obviously, we're very much community focused, and you know we love community. And we've noticed one of the first things we noticed about you guys is just how you've approached the community perspective of things. And let's just jump right in. I mean, Swell is liquid staking derivatives protocol. You guys want to come in and do things a little bit different. But let's start with community. You know, like what was the perspective? What was the thinking? You know, I mean, obviously I speak about community. You guys have approached community from a holistic geographical perspective. You didn't just target one aspect. I mean, I know that you're in Oz. You know, you've got more of a mindful approach to, you know, the Asia side of things. I think Asia is quite an elusive one for kind of like a Western style of thinking, whereas you guys seem to have just completely crushed it. Tell us a bit about that approach.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first thing to note is that Swell is effectively a DAO, and in many ways we premise ourselves on being a community of folks who are interested in Ethereum liquid staking, and part of that is to adopt a global mindset and being as inclusive and as welcoming as possible to stakers of all sizes and shapes. And ultimately for us, the vision for Swell is to create a genuine community-owned, directed, and governed protocol. We're in the relatively early stages of this path to progressive decentralization, but it has been on our roadmap since day one to really build something that is for the community and ultimately is serving also the wider Ethereum ecosystem. And overall, we do see DeFi itself as being a community of folks that are, you know, passionate about things like open finance, self-sovereignty, privacy, and these sorts of things.
Great. Could you tell us, in your own words, what you define as being liquid staking derivatives, as opposed to, you know, the classical definition of what it is? I mean, we've written a tremendous amount about it. I mean, it's been a narrative for several months. I think once we exit this bear, I'm pretty sure it's going to be like the predominant thing. You know, besides the meme coins, besides everything along the way, I think LSDs really have entrenched themselves. And I'm just curious how you perceive them and how, kind of extending on that question, how you see Swell playing a role in this whole narrative and this whole dynamic of LSDs.
Yeah, great. I think there is an important distinction with regards to like liquid staking tokens and liquid staking derivatives. The sort of vernacular that we like to use is liquid staking tokens. And in effect, what they are, it's something that has been around since December 2020, at least with the Ethereum ecosystem, but it really came to front of mind post-Shapella, and also post-merge, where we saw a couple of things happen. One was the full shift to POS, or proof of stake, as well as the ability to withdraw your staked assets. And at the same time, what's happened is the market has effectively moved towards this dynamic where people want to stake their assets, but also have the ability to enjoy the freedom and flexibility that comes with having a liquid token version of that asset. Specifically, what liquid staking is a way for you to stake your native cryptocurrency, in this case, Ether, and receive a receipt token. It's effectively like a receipt that is a mirror representation of your staked ETH on the Beacon chain. The beauty of that particular model is that that asset can then be rehypothecated in various sort of wonderful strategies within DeFi, whether that's liquidity provisioning, options and synthetics, derivatives, as well as borrow and lend protocols and what have you. So it is in many ways simply a representation of staked ETH, and it is a base layer for what we think will power much of DeFi and much of like the future of the financial infrastructure.
Great. And then in terms of Swell's role around that, I mean, I know that, you know, we've had a number of protocols come to the fore in the last 6 months that obviously are wanting to capture, you know, the value that staked ETH has. How is Swell planning on capitalizing on essentially that model to start off with? And then how do you guys plan on doing things differently? Because at the end of the day, it's like you've got to kind of do a little bit of a song and a dance around how you are going to stand out amongst the competition, right? Because it's very competitive right now. We've seen a lot of protocols coming to the fore. And what we've liked about Swell is that you guys are looking at things slightly different. Well, not slightly, but considerably different. And I think it's going to become more evident as this journey continues. Can you give us an insight into that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the first and foremost, Swell is like philosophically driven as regards its the rationale for why it entered the market in the first place. We've been thinking about liquid staking for a very long time, and we've always seen the importance of building a responsible and sort of conscientious liquid staking token, and the role that these tokens play in the sort of the systemic nature of Ethereum with regards to things like centralization vectors of LSDs and whatnot. And at the same time as well, the team is effectively from the Ethereum ecosystem. We're Ethereum first and foremost. And on top of that, some of the other things that sort of we think about is there needs to be more competition in the space. And the way to sort of compete is to provide a compelling offering that is reflective of what it's like to be a new entrant into the space. And so Swell's been sort of very intentional about, you know, promoting the fact that we acknowledge the fact that it is a bit of a risk to provide early staking and early liquidity provisioning into a protocol like Swell. So we've tried to de-risk things as much as possible. We've done an extensive testnet. We've done a guarded mainnet launch. We've been audited by Sigma Prime, who also audited many other liquid staking protocols and did some work with the ETH as well. We have bug bounty, all these sorts of things that we're trying to be empathetic to what the user was and what it would be like if we were on the other side of the table. And the team itself stakes ETH with Swell, and that for us is the acid test. And at the same time, you know, we have some certain advantages and flexibilities, such as the fact that we're still pre-token, and ultimately we want to reward those users who are early participants within Swell. So a lot of it's just about presenting a compelling offering that is sort of where the market is today and where it's likely to be.
Great. So just to clarify, Swell has not launched a token. You've launched a protocol that is by its very nature functional at the moment. You've done everything from a foundational perspective. So we've chatted about community. We're chatting obviously about the functionality of the protocol itself. So that's all in place right now. Obviously the hard yards of doing the audits and that. How was that? How was your journey around audits? Because that's something that we don't often speak about, but it's such an important aspect of what DeFi is, and, you know, especially, you know, safety for users and the rest of it. So give us a little bit of kind of like the pain and the suffering that you went through with audits, or was it pretty straightforward and, you know, it was just a question of just following, you know, the points on a piece of paper and just ticking those boxes and getting on with it? I mean, how was that journey for you guys?
Yeah, great. I think from a values perspective, our number one priority is always like the safety and security of the protocol. And that's expressed effectively in our design decisions. Like, for example, Swell is fully non-custodial, fully smart contract driven and whatnot. And then as regards the auditing process, the team is highly experienced, and we're very sort of mindful of the responsibility that we have as protocol developers. I mean, it's just working through the processes, and then feedback from the auditors, and then publishing the report, and maintaining open source ethos, and then running a bug bounty after that, and then just continuously developing in a responsible manner.
Great. So just coming back to launching protocol before token, a lot of protocols do it the other way around. I personally am in favor of protocol being delivered, running the gauntlet, and then thinking about how do I create value around a token. Where do you guys see the value accrual around your token, and why did you do it post-launch?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first thing that we wanted to prove out was that we had product market fit, and that we were able to not rely on the crutch of having a governance token. In some ways, the governance token is used as a bit of a I would say a bit of a shortcut to drive user adoption, and a bit of a shortcut to drive liquidity against, in our case, an LST. We've been able to achieve product market fit as evidenced throughout traction, as well as secondary market liquidity, as evidenced in the fact that we have a tremendous amount of liquidity depth against Swell ETH, our liquid staking token. So for us, it was about achieving those two things, and we have achieved those two things. Now it's about sort of continuing to maintain traction, and then being really intentional about the timing for our governance token, and to ensure that we are able to appropriately utilize a token such that it has real utility within the network. And we're currently designing a lot of the tokenomics from the ground up, and looking at what has worked and what hasn't worked within DeFi. As regards sort of the value capture and accrual to token holders, we'll be coming out with some sort of really interesting tokenomics designs very soon. I think it will be a bit of a step change to what we're seeing generally within the LST landscape today.
Great. And I think what's also been, so you were chatting about like token before and shortcuts, and for me the first thing that came to mind is that it was almost like a crutch. I mean, this is obviously not an indictment on all the protocols out there, but by no means it isn't. But it's in a way, the truth of it is that you are relying on almost like, I'll release a token, I'll create hype around that, I'll get a whole lot of money, and then I'll build a product that I promise I'm going to build, which is fine, and it's okay, I suppose. But I think go out there, do the hard yards, and then find a fit. I'm just finding that might land up being almost like the norm going forward. Like if you had to ask me, like, what is the one thing that you would love to see around like a change in the space going out of a bear market into a next bull market, I would say that launch your protocol first, sir. Show us that it can work. Show us that it does have a market fit, that it can generate fees, or whatever it is that you're wanting to capture in the marketplace. And then launch a token if you feel the need to. I mean, we've spoken to a number of protocols where it's not even on their radar. And if it is, they haven't even spoken about it. They're just like, listen, we want to be profitable. We want to actually demonstrate that this thing does have the whole concept of real yield. Which leads me on to the next question, is that where are you guys deriving your value from around fees, and how are you guys distributing that in terms of the context of being a profitable DAO?
Yeah, it's a good question. In terms of like the actual underlying source of the yield, because we're a liquid staking token, effectively the yield comes off the back of the Ethereum blockchain through its issuance, i.e. the return from staking, more specifically the consensus layer and execution layer rewards. Net, we're looking at sort of generally in a post-Chappelle environment, circa 5% or thereabouts, depending on network activity and these sorts of things. And then in time, Swell will in effect apply a commission rate. At the moment, we're in a special zero fee campaign rate to help drive and bootstrap adoption. But yeah, in time, subject to the DAO, we'll look to apply a fee there. And then in terms of cash flow profitability and these sorts of things, Swell is a venture-backed project, and so we're in a bit of a growth phase at the moment. So we're really just focusing on product market fit, traction, and getting to scale. But yeah, in time, we definitely want to think about ways to look at the revenue top line.
Great. Just in terms of the market right now, in terms of LSDs, we know that Lido's, they've captured 33% of this whole thing, which, kind of like, competitors to Lido will turn around and say, this is not a great thing. It's like they've got majority of share. We kind of like, it's flouting the whole concept of decentralization. What are your thoughts around that? Maybe gloves off, maybe gloves on. I don't know. I'm not sure whether that question applies, but I think, that scenario applies. But what are your thoughts around that? And moving forward for Swell, how do you guys plan on capturing, this market in its entirety?
Yeah, sure. I think first and foremost, the Swell team is composed of largely, effectively, Ethereum purists. And so we subscribe to these ideas of decentralization, the importance of maintaining diversity at every sort of layer within the Ethereum stack, whether that's infrastructure, client diversity, as well as LST diversity as well. And it just so happens that we are, ourselves also building an LST as well. There has been sort of various numbers thrown about as regards what is a threshold which, if exceeded, would cause a existential risk or catastrophic risk to Ethereum. I think we're there with Lido already. The figures have been 15%, 22%, 25%, 33%. Danny Ryan wrote a seminal piece on this issue and made a recommendation that no LST should exceed 25%. So we're already past that point. And for Swell, what we intend to do isn't necessarily take the entire market. It's to build responsibly and to build what's best for Ethereum, but at the same time provide a really compelling solution for stakers out there. And the way in which we intend to do that is by effectively competing on all the things that stakers care about, and then drawing to light these issues about the dangers of centralization, but at the same time just competing on basically capitalistic terms by trying to provide the best possible product that we can, and also there's a certain playbook to LST development, and we tend to run that playbook and try to do it as quickly as we can, and hopefully the Ethereum community and stakers will get behind us.
Okay, so clearly you're stating that you are competitors. You definitely want to compete in the space. That's obvious. How do you guys go about competing against the likes of Lido, to start this question off? And then secondly, how do you plan on potentially reinventing yourself with not giving away too much around that?
Yeah, sure. In terms of the competition, there's still a significant amount of ETH that's still waiting to be staked on. It's still on the sidelines waiting to be staked. It's about it's more than 80%. It's still waiting. So there's still a big market out there. And then for us, what we intend to do is just create the best possible user experience. That's going to be key for us. So we have certain things that we're developing that is sort of unique and differentiated in the market. We intend to effectively enable people to compound their yield within the same dApp. That's not been seen yet in Ethereum liquid staking through our vaults. On top of that, we also plan to innovate in quite a step change manner on LST tokenomics. I would say that generally speaking, across the liquid staking protocol landscape, the actual token itself, or the receipt token, is largely a commodity, but where there's room to improve and innovate is actually on the tokenomics, i.e. the governance token. So we intend to do some really cool and interesting things there that will ultimately benefit token holders overall. And then the third thing that we have is that we have some really interesting sort of distribution mechanisms that we're actively exploring.
So one of the big things, obviously, in DeFi is, on-ramp, off-ramp. And it seems, just obviously just going through your site and doing my bit of research, I noticed that you are facilitating the functionality of being able to onboard directly through the website with Apple Pay, I think it is, with Google Pay. How did you guys get that right? Quite curious, because it's really cool addition to the whole thing.
Yeah, there's been this battle cry, Web3 to sort of onboard the next billion or so users. And then part of that is just to try to build towards, try to make the design as inclusive as possible. And part of that has been, the implementation of things like the sort of fiat to crypto on-ramp. That's really easy to do within the same DApp, right? So that's been a part of our ethos since day one, is to make liquid staking accessible to as many people as we can. And so we've been really intentional about, some of these design decisions, and hopefully that's expressed in some of those functionalities.
Great. I think more protocols need to be doing that. I know that it can be quite challenging in terms of, banks and the rest of it. And if you can get that right, I think you're just making it easier. Obviously, I mean, it's a no-brainer. In terms of just coming back to, obviously, token launch, I mean, everyone, loves to speculate. The DJs love it probably more than anybody else. Our community, I know, is probably like chomping at the bit to get more information around, obviously, your token. That's why I waited until 21 minutes into the interview, or 22 minutes into the interview, kind of forced them to actually just patience, but at the same time, it has been a patient journey for you guys, getting a protocol together, market fit. So it seems like you've done that. I mean, you guys have got close to 40 million in TVL already. I mean, that's very impressive without having a token out there. Tell us a bit about how you guys are planning, the launch of the token. I know that you have a really interesting initiative called Voyage. I mean, it's a great name. I love that. Tell us a bit about it and, what it entails.
Yeah, sure. So effectively, Swell is in a pre-token state at the moment, and we wanted to really reward early participants of the protocol effectively with our governance token when we do have our token live, our TGE event. And so the Voyage is a way for people to get involved in that in a really sort of fun and story-driven sort of way. People who jump on the Swell app, when you stake with Swell or hold Sweeth or provide liquidity or jump into different strategies, you'll be effectively earning points, or in this case, pearls, and the pearls will then be convertible to Swell at our launch. So far, it's been extremely successful. We've had over 6,000 stakers join the Voyage. We've been live for just over 4 weeks now, and so it's been a really, really, really fantastic result. And in addition to the 40 mil TVL you mentioned earlier, we've also seen a lot of people provide liquidity as well, which is great to see. And that's sort of part and parcel of what makes a really good LSTs is liquidity. So the fact that people have also been providing liquidity is really heartening to see, and really encouraging to see as well. So I really encourage people to, if you want to get involved, definitely participate in the Voyage, and then you'll be eligible for the Swell airdrop when those details come out.
In terms of the kind of like the weighted rewards, do you earn more rewards if you provide liquidity? Do you earn more rewards if you do straight staking, or is it just do you guys have a model in place where you kind of like calculate how does that work?
Yeah, so I think generally the principles are, the more you stake, the longer you stake, and the earlier you stake, the more pearls you get, or the more sort of rewards you get overall. And then, as part of like, providing liquidity or something like that, there's also rewards that you get from the protocols themselves. So for example, if you're providing liquidity on Balancer, you're eligible for swap fees. If you're providing liquidity on Maverick, you receive swap fees. If you're providing liquidity on Balancer, you receive swap fees plus Bell token plus Aura token. And on Bunny, you get the swap fees as well as protocol tokens as well, which is great. And then from do we have formulas? We really don't at the moment. A lot of it is just we have models definitely in the background, but they're not sort of static models. We have a series of chapters that we're going to be running through at the Voyage. We're currently chapter 1. So chapter 1 has some modeling. We're sort of keeping that close to our chest to prevent gaming and civil attacks and things of that nature. But yeah, overall, I think people just need to know that the earlier you stake, the more you stake, and the longer you stake, and the more you participate, the more rewards you get.
So one of the value propositions that I noticed that you guys are offering, and also to keep it interesting from a competitive edge, is that you guys want to be offering better returns versus the competition. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that looks like?
Yeah, definitely. So liquid staking, as mentioned earlier, it's largely commoditized because everyone is effectively providing access to the staking yield that is provided by Ethereum's POS consensus mechanism. And so where we're really focusing on is giving people as much flexibility as possible to use Sweeth in various strategies, whether that's providing liquidity or using it as collateral, and at the same time rewarding our early stakers with pearls, which will then be convertible to Swell, which can form part of like the overall return profile. And I think overall, on a comparable basis, I think it's going to be quite attractive for people if you're sort of someone that wants to get access to ETH staking, but at the same time have the opportunity to be a part of an up and coming protocol like Swell.
We spoke about community earlier on and the importance of taking a global perspective and approaching it from like, how do I maximize my exposure? Well, then I need to have kind of like this worldview, and it seems like you've taken that worldview and you've applied it to DeFi. And what I mean is that I look at this list of partners that you guys have put forward. It's kind of like everyone's resume needs that. It's like, who have I partnered with? Where do they see the value in what it is that we're doing? And it's kind of like the who's who of DeFi at the moment is on this list. Just reading through it, we've got Aura, Alchemix, Pendle, Olympus Star, Unsheath, Tokamak, Timeless Finance, Stake DAO, and Yearn Finance. So are those still applicable in terms of your partnerships? Are there more to add to that list? What is the rationale around these partnerships on the whole, and how do they benefit you guys? Because some of them might be deemed as competition, but it seems like you've decided, let's put the competitive aspect to the side. Let's cultivate these partnerships. What's the rationale around this, and how do you see this benefiting Swell going forward?
Yeah, Swell is definitely like an open collaborator within the DeFi ecosystem, and we've been sort of fortunate to have sort of the support of many protocols and many people within the space since the earliest days of Swell. And our attitude is that it's a win-win sort of arrangement. And in the spirit of things like composability, like money Legos, etc., and sort of cross-community pollination, it's a no-brainer for us. And these are great sort of protocol partners to have, and we use their products as well. So we're learning from each other. So I think really the next wave of DeFi will be LSTFi, and the more that we can sort of integrate with these protocols, whether that's like an actual sort of product integration or if it's just like jumping on an AMA together, we're always down to do that.
What would you say is your kind of like end-road LSD-fi scenario? I mean, what does that look like?
Well, I think it's just the maturation of the ecosystem of itself, and wherein we'll just have more, like there'll be more capital coming to the system, more sort of products being built off the back of ETH staked, more users. Yeah, I think just the maturation of this decentralized finance system.
And then in terms of the products themselves, do you see kind of like LSDs becoming almost like the basis for collateral to feed into other protocol ideas, dynamics, whether it's decentralized exchanges, whether it might be other kind of imitators or maybe copies of what TradeFi has to offer from a services perspective? How do you see that growing? I mean, do you think that kind of like becomes almost like another layer to just pure ETH staking? How do you envisage that playing out?
Yeah, well, within the Ethereum ecosystem, like Ether itself is a pristine collateral. It's the most liquid collateral, most transparent collateral, right? So, and what LSTs are effectively a mere representation of that, and a claim to that once it's taken the beacon chain. That's if that's the mental model that one subscribes to, and that's the one I subscribe to, well, then it stands to reason that LSTs will replace ETH in DeFi. And then so for all the things that ETH can do, LSTs will and should be able to do, whether that's being sort of the dominant base pair on liquidity pools, whether it's being the dominant form of collateral, and sort of the whole range of things that you can do with ETH. And then in time, I would expect to see sort of an overall growing of the industry. And then for it to sort of replicate a lot of what's happening at the moment in traditional finance, and also at the same time doing things that traditional finance can't do because it doesn't have the technology that blockchain affords. So things like flash loans, for example, that's unique to our space, and all these sorts of things, you know. And so, yeah, overall, I just see LSTs as being a replacement for ETH in the DeFi ecosystem to grow.
So obviously, in light of what we've discovered about Swell during this discussion, I mean, it kind of like the next thing to come up on my list of things to kind of like interrogate and to investigate is that you guys also have gone and struck partnerships with a number of NFT projects. So we've got Miladies, obviously, Lobster Da, Remilio, EV Mavericks. That's so freaking cool, man. And it's like, it's so important as well, because there really is a concerted and focused effort around like inclusivity around what it is that you guys are doing. I'm really curious to kind of like understand why NFTs. Where do you guys see the dynamic and kind of like the flywheel effect of what it is that you're doing with NFTs? I mean, I know that seems like a bit of an obvious question, but what's going on there? What do you see happening into the future with this?
Yeah, well, we think that sort of like we're in a bit of we're still in the early stages of this like the crypto technology arc, and you know, there is a definite sort of confluence between DeFi and NFT holders, and a lot of Miladies. Like I'm a Milady holder, I'm an EV Mavericks holder, Lobster DAO NFT holder, and Remilio holder. It does capture like sort of like where crypto is today. So like case in point, like Miladies, you know, that's effectively a very crypto native cohort. Lobster DAO's again very crypto native cohort. EV Mavericks, you know, effectively spawned out of eFinance Reddit community. This was the community that really sounded the alarm on the growing centralization risks posed by Lido to Ethereum. So we've been very intentional about the communities that we've partnered with, because we ourselves are from those communities.
Great. So let's just go back to obviously Voyage now. If I'm listening to obviously this interview and I didn't know about Swell, what would you say is the best strategy and the best approach to take in terms of getting involved, you know, becoming a part of this whole thing? First of all, when is the TGE event planned for?
Yeah, at the moment we have a bit of a window. The window is mid to late Q3. Doing TGE is a bit like launching a rocket. You want to make sure like all the conditions are right, and we want to make sure that that sort of it's the right time. But that's generally the window. And then in terms of like what's the best strategy, it really depends on your sort of individual sort of circumstances and risk appetite and that sort of thing. So I think the best strategy to do is just to jump on and sort of visit the website, have a look, and if it resonates with you, do your own research. If it resonates with you, then those are the sort of principles. Like the earlier you stake, the more you stake, and sort of the longer you stake for. That's really what we're incentivizing. The reason why is because we want to incentivize people that are actually going to use the protocol. We spent a lot of time trying to think about the best way to build a community of people that are sort of like incentive aligned to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so we've done from Blockmate's side, we've done obviously an in-depth study on what Swell's doing. So we'll post a link below this. We'll also post a link for the Swell Voyage itself and the website. You guys have built like a really cool site around that. Can you just tell us in terms of, there's a mint bonus that applies to this voyage. Tell us about that. I mean, it seems like you do have a love for NFTs. I mean, there's obviously a strong connection there based on how you guys have executed this thing. And I see that, there's a 12, 13-day period at the moment when we've recorded this. Tell us a bit about the dynamic and, the functionality of the website and how it's applied to essentially the gamification of this Voyage initiative that you have. Yeah,
that's a good question. So I think the first thing is that we just wanted to make sure that staking was fun. And you mentioned the word gamified. Yeah, that's what we wanted to do, try to make it like a story, because these people are on a journey with us. When they stake with Swell, they now have a sort of a vested interest in our protocol, and hopefully, when the chapters are all finished, we'll people will have a place in effectively the DAO, which is like a city in many ways, and be able to sort of govern the protocol and then see the protocol grow, and then hopefully be a force for good in Ethereum, etc. We currently have another special sort of promotional offer where if you mint one SWEETH, so you just basically stake the ETH, you'll get a bonus amount of pearls. It's a limited time only, so definitely check it out, and then you'll have those pearls, and they'll continue to accumulate and grow in value. And then as more and more chapters come through, you'll start to have better understanding of of Swell, what we're trying to do, and also more opportunities to get involved.
Yeah, so if you are listening to this on a podcast and you are curious as to what it is that we're chatting about, you can actually go to the website. It's app.swellnetwork.io/voyage, and it's super cool. I mean, it's kind of like it obviously identifies, your status in terms of your wallet, and then it prescribes you as a Swell OG, whether you've got a Discord role, Swell Diving Club, Gitcoin donor. So obviously there is a tracking of your community involvement here. Who are you guys using to do that for you? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, we do it internally.
So you did that all internally. You guys built it yourselves. That's awesome. So huge credit to you for doing that, because a lot of protocols look to a third party to do that. Nothing wrong with that, but it's cool that you guys have built this thing yourselves. And I see that you've got your milestone in terms of the number of tokens or number of ETH that has been essentially staked. There's a leaderboard, obviously with wallet addresses for transparency's sake. This is a super cool website. I really like what you guys have done here. And it does really buy into, the NFT aspect of Swell. I see that there is a main character here. Obviously, it's a frog. Does he have, or does she have a name?
No, we have not named the frogs yet. But that's something.
That has to happen, sir. There's no way of getting around that. Super cool. I love this. This is exactly what we need. There's obviously a serious underlying aspect to what's going on here, but you guys have managed to make it very cool. Great. Just in terms of looking at towards Q3 now, and the TG event, token generation event. What are you guys planning to achieve ultimately with the introduction of this governance token? Because that's the end game, right? That's like what you spoke about at the beginning of the interview. How does that look like for you as a founder? Is it like, I want to build this thing, make it successful, step away, or I want to be kind of like a figurehead? How do you see yourself and the DAO progressing after that event?
Yeah, I don't think much will change. Like for me personally, I just see myself as a contributor and sort of helper to the protocol, and I could provide some guidance to the community about where the protocol should lead into, and where it should perhaps focus its energy to ultimately continue the ubiquity and accessibility of Sweeth. I guess in terms of like the purpose of the TG and everything else, it's really to enable the DAO to really move into its next stage of evolution. Distribute the token to those who are incentive aligned and have utilized the protocol. And at the same time, there's a whole range of other things that we're intending to do with the token to have more utility and within the network. We'll sort of release a lot more detail on that through our Swell Network's posts that will be coming soon.
So in terms of the campaign that you guys are running now, you've got Voyage. Is there anything else planned kind of like around, promoting what it is that you guys are doing? I mean, if you said no, I'd be very surprised. I don't know the answer to this question. That's why I'm asking it. So yeah, is there anything else potentially on the horizon? Maybe a little bit of alpha for the Blockmates community and whoever else, listens in on this interview?
Yeah, we have a lot of campaigns coming up that will sort of move towards really a process of. There's a couple of things. Well, one thing is like to be more direct about what the value of those pearls will be, and I think we want it to be a very successful airdrop for participants. So one is like more directness. Number two is there's going to be sort of new ways in which you can participate within Swell. So we have an interesting feature which is coming up, which I can definitely share on this podcast. You heard it here first. But we're going to have we're going to introduce like a zap, like a zap feature, where it's very, you can sort of like zap into ETH staking, where you don't just need to have ETH. Like it will sort of route the thing for you, which is going to be pretty cool, and we'll be incentivizing certain tokens there to sort of help with the overall UX and growth of the protocol. There's a lot to down the pipe that we have coming up.
Okay, so another thing that we will post below the stream is obviously the link to your socials, Discord, all that kind of stuff. So just check it out, guys and girls. I don't often say this. In fact, I hardly ever do. But I'm really keen to get involved personally. Like we interview a lot of interesting protocols, and but for me, it's like as a gamer, like long-time gamer, and I'm always the oldest guy in the room, so I've been doing it for a very long time. It's like I love it when protocols bring in the whole gamification aspect of things. For me, it's just a fun thing. But it seems like you guys have built considerable amount of layers into this whole experience. And from a user's perspective, all I can say is just keep on doing that. I think we really do need more of this kind of thing, stuff that captures our imaginations and our ability to play the game, to get further. And that's what I'm seeing as like I want to level up. Clearly, I've been playing way too much Diablo 4 over the last few days. So I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm definitely going to get involved in what it is that you guys are doing. And I'm not just saying that for the sake of because I'm interviewing you. I think I genuinely am interested in this journey that you guys are on, this voyage. So really looking forward to it and becoming a part of this community. and let's see what discussions transpire in Discord, in our Discord. That's what we do. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, we don't force anything on people. This isn't financial advice, but I think there's a lot of fun that can be had from this, irrespective. If you've got ETH, put it to use, I suppose, and I wanted to kind of just round off our chat essentially around, what are your expectations, or what does your wish list look like, from, as a founder, Swell, what would you like to see in the short term, medium, and probably the most important one is the long-term vision of what it is that you've cultivated?
Yeah, I think I think in the short term, continuing to see more traction, more usage and uptake of the protocol, and to listen to the community and integrate that feedback. That's the short term. I think the medium term is to have like the token be successful in sort of having like active participation, and at the same time having more sort of ubiquity of Sweeth in various sort of places, whether that's borrow lending protocols and even moving on beyond mainnet. And then I think in the long term, what will be great is if, as and when Ethereum itself ossifies for as well as a DAO to begin to ossify and start to become, like a fully fledged autonomous organization in the sense, in as much as it can do, and to be, increasingly sort of decentralized and more robust, and, operating really like a protocol should operate. But yeah, that seems to be, that's probably a couple of years out still. But yeah, I mean, but to get there, we're gonna have to get the medium and short term things right.
Great. Do you see, in terms of that plan, do you see like a possibility? Does it ever enter your frame of vision, like a possibility where Swell could become more than just an LSD protocol, but kind of like branch out into other kind of like aspects of the market? Or is it just like, this is our focus, this is what we're going to stick to, and if we do see other possibilities, then we'll just create other protocols around that?
It's a good question. I think like Swell's focus will be on Ethereum liquid staking. I mean, there could be sort of multi-chain things that we do, and like we are talking to other chains about that. But first and foremost, we're a liquid staking issuer, and that's probably where our focus will be. Yeah.
Great. Daniel, thanks so much for joining me today. It's been really cool to essentially unpack what it is that you guys are doing. We'll definitely get you back on closer to all these events that you're going to have. I have no idea what they are, but I'm sure we'll get you back in. I'm definitely going to get involved. Like I said, I just think this is going to be a lot of fun. The fact that you guys have delivered already is, it's enough for me to want to get stuck in. So I think what I'm going to be doing when we're done with this call is that I'm going to go and see what I can do and get involved. And, obviously we will be covering your journey and this voyage that you guys have put out there. We are very interested at Blockmates and really appreciate you coming in and taking the time out. And yeah, we can only sit and see how this plays out, and obviously wishing you guys all the best going forward. So thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Joe. I appreciate it.